Reflections on the Water. My earliest memories are of the cattle in the fields and the sun in the sky. The frost in the windows on those bitter midwinter mornings. The smell of the gorse bushes on the hillside. I milked my first cow when I was 4 years old. I remember my mother telling me what to do, word for word, like it was only yesterday. Of course, back then we spoke Welsh. Everyone did. I didn't speak a word of English until I was 10 or 11. If we do, in fact, live in a small world, then the valley mustn't have been more than the tiniest speck of dust. People say that in the countryside everyone knows each other, but where I grew up everyone really did know each other. 70 names isn't that many to remember when they're your family, friends and classmates. A community connected by a shared home, history and existence. In a village that small, no one can afford to make enemies and no one can afford to be without friends. Life consisted of routine. School, chapel, meals, farm work. Predictable but safe. Our home was a haven, a heaven where nothing ever happened. The same people every day, the same seats on the same pews, the same clothes, the same meals, the same stories. Only the livestock came and went with any regularity. The schoolroom, desks of varying sizes, mismatched old furniture, books stacked in messy piles. Out of the window a view of the steep hillside. There were 15 or so children in our school. At 5 years old it seemed like quite a lot, but your perspective is so narrow at that age. Our teacher was like a surrogate mother to us, kind and warm-hearted, but tough when she needed to be. We were like a family, and although I dragged my heels to school on a Monday morning, I have many fond memories of those times. The ever-energetic games of football outside, the scuffed shoes and grass-stained trousers, socks soaked in marshy puddles, heavy woolen jumpers discarded in sunny spring afternoons, throwing sticks into the stream. One day I returned home after many carefree hours playing with my friends. As I walked through the front door, I felt it. Something was wrong. My mother was sat at the kitchen table, facing away from the door. My father pacing up and down with a stern look on his face. "What's wrong?" I asked nervously. No one spoke for what felt like an hour. My mother hugged me. My father explained the news as best he could. His voice was a flat monotone. I was too young to understand. It all seemed so abstract to me. "They're going to make us go away?" I asked. "They're going to make us leave?" "Yes, Cariad." "But why?" No reply. "Why?" "Because they're turning the valley into a lake," my dad said. "A lake that provides water for Liverpool," Mum said. I didn't understand. As the news spread around the village, it was all anyone could talk about. Childish rumours and mixed messages muddled my young mind. I heard how the village would be drowned, that the water level would be so high that every building was to be totally submerged. One night I dreamt that I was walking home from school alone, when the sky turned black, the air cold, when I saw a tsunami, half a mile high, crashing down the valley towards me. The water soaked my skin, chilling me to the bone as I awoke drenched in sweat. Another night I found myself coming downstairs for breakfast, to find my parents dressed in diving suits drinking tea, Dad reading the newspaper. They encased me in my own suit, so heavy I could barely move. The water so murky I couldn't see more than a yard in front of my face. As I waded out the front door to school, the shark appeared out of the gloom, his teeth like knives, his mouth cavernous. I saw the grown-ups of the village truly angry for the first time. It impressed on me just how serious the situation was. It made me angry too. How could they take our home from us? Why can't they get their water from somewhere else? I imagined the enemy as moustache-twirling pantomime villains, whose only motives were to destroy, to make us miserable. I dreamed of fighting them, of saving the village, of freeing my friends and righting this grave injustice. But to my delight and secret terror, a protest was organised. Almost the entire village went to Liverpool, armed with banners and placards, all bundled into a coach for the day, and others from neighbouring villages joined us. And when we got to Liverpool, hundreds more arrived. But what if they fled the village whilst we're away? I thought to myself. There were police officers there. There were people on the street staring at us. Some supported us, some shouted and cheered, but the vast majority were indifferent. I really thought it'd help, that they'd take pity on us to recognise that they were in the wrong. But real life isn't like that, and nothing on earth would have changed their minds. Except, of course, money. The day in Liverpool brought it home. The reality of the situation, and the banality of evil. Wars are fought not on battlefields, but by boring men in suits behind closed doors. The nightmares stopped, but the seeds of anger and distrust were planted in my waking consciousness, like a veil had been lifted. When you realise how powerless you truly are, that the system protects itself always, and you can either be angry or simply resigned. Being young, I was, of course, angry. My parents, being old, were resigned, like daggers blunted by the onslaught of time. On the day we left Capel Celyn for the last time, my mother went alone to the churchyard. She was saying goodbye to her father. Me and my friends had one last kick around for old time's sake. Knowing that you're experiencing something for the last time makes it so much more painful than a retrospective realisation. The last of our possessions gone, we said goodbye to our home, locking the front door on the way out. When I returned for the first time nearly 30 years later, I was with my wife and daughter. As I looked out across the glistening water, I thought to myself, if they hadn't flooded the village, would I still be there now?